Greetings, everybody. Nina here with another Beyond Truth. Tonight, we got a very special guest on. I'm going to get to his bio here in just a second, but before I do, welcome, Robert. How you doing tonight?
Doing great. I just can't wait. This is one of my favorite subjects besides history, so let her rip, Nina. Oh, boy.
Yeah, tonight's show is going to be very impactful, so stay tuned, get your bevy, and get ready. I'm going to show you the website here while I let you guys know who we got on tonight. His name is Mark Fiorentino. Now, hopefully I'll said that out right. If not, I apologize. Is an independent researcher, author, and a theorist best known for developing the theory of super relativity, which is short for TSR. A bold, unifying framework that seeks to explain the fundamental force of nature through geometry, space contraction, and torsion fields. Drawing inspiration from Newton, Einstein, and the long scientific quest to uncover the true origins of Newton's gravitational constant, GG, Fiorentino has produced dozens of technical papers, books, and public talks that explore everything from the creative yet mathematical grounding vision, or maybe a structure of the electron and photon, to the hidden role of neutronium, I don't know how to say that, in cosmology. His work bridges particle physics, relativity, and cosmology with the creative yet mathematical grounding vision. Beyond theory, Fiorentino is a passionate communicator who brings complex ideas to life for broad audiences. Through his book, The Master of Reality and Angelic Journey, as well as numerous presentations, he blends scientific discovery with a deep sense of spirituality and purpose. His mission is not only to unlock the mysteries of mass, gravity, and light, but also to inspire a new era of breakthrough technologies, including anti-gravity propulsion and faster-than-light starship that could carry humans to the stars. Wow, that is a lot. Now, without further ado, let's bring Mark on. Hi, Mark. How are you doing tonight?
Hello, it's good to be here.
There we go. We got you up higher. There we go. Welcome to the show, Mark. I can't wait to hear what you got for us tonight. If you don't mind, maybe start off with just telling us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just go from there.
Sure. I started out in this quest about the age of 10 when I got interested in Albert Einstein, found out that he was born on my birthday. Started reading about him, and I read in the Encyclopedia Britannica, somebody had written an article about the unified field theory. And when I read that, I thought this is the best idea I've ever heard. And I believe it's right. So I became very interested in Einstein and continued reading about all of his work and the unified field theory. I studied that a lot. So I really wanted to know his ideas. And I wanted just to track and continue in that way. I got something in my eye here. So that's how I got to this point that I'm at right now. And I worked for IBM for many years, and I worked for Harris Government Systems, building a satellite, a killer satellite, and then worked for IBM, and then worked for ImageSoft, the software company. So I've been around. Boy, it's really tearing. I apologize for this.
No worries. We all have our issues, yeah.
There we go. So, gosh, it's burning a lot. I don't understand that. So that's where we're at right now. I'm working on research papers, many research papers, thanks to a series of technological advancements. I have been given a gift. I could put it no other way, but that way. Mm-hmm. That through the internet, personal computers, and now artificial intelligence, I've been able to make major breakthroughs since my recent diagnosis of stage 4 cancer in the kidneys, which I have been working on getting over for the past year. And I'm now, as of the last 2 readings, PET scans, cancer-free, and so I'm winning that battle for now. But while I was suffering and trying to get better, that's when the miracle happened.
Oh, hang on, everybody. There he goes.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
It happens.
When I was working on, just for fun, working with the AI, playing around with it, I input in everything I knew about reality, particles, forces, energy, matter, everything. I just described it to her, and I says, let's try to solve some of the problems in physics. And the first few days we struggled a lot. We didn't really, I got gibberish. But then I described the electron to it in high detail. And then suddenly it started computing and all these formulas started to come out to the screen. And then it said, congratulations, you have successfully predicted the particle mass of the electron. So that kind of vindicated the model. The model is the key to understanding the universe. So that's where we are. I brought you all the way up to current time.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot. Now, are you able to sort of explain what that is in sort of layman's terms for us to understand exactly? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But a question. I'll be the
Sure.
layman here. Well, let's start out with particles and protons, electrons. That's all what particles are, correct? I
Yeah,
mean,
the stable particles, electrons, protons,
Okay.
neutrons.
Okay, that sounds good. That'll help solve some stuff.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So, what were you about to ask?
Particle.
But explaining the whole universe,
Okay.
that, yeah.
All right. In the universe, there's really only one thing. And everything is made from that one single thing. And that thing is space, or what they called in the early 1900s, the ether.
Mhm.
Now, that supposedly has been disproven by one experiment, the Michelson-Morley experiment, which I've had to re-examine and figure out what went wrong there, because the ether does exist, and my equations are all based on it, and it works. The same ether that James Clerk Maxwell used to make his equations that work. The same theory about the universe that Einstein, he believed in the ether right up until the Michelson-Morley experiment. And then he bailed out on it, kind of. He went back and forth, depending on who he was talking to, what speech and so forth. Sometimes he'd say, no, it's really, not really something there. But then on other speeches, he was very definitely in favor of, hold on here, I'm trying to bring something up. He was very definitely in favor of the ether. And his work really kind of, in a way that you can't escape, suggests that there is some background field, some fundamental field. And that's really all the ether is. It's the substance of the universe, and everything's made from it. All the particles are nothing but twists of space, either clockwise or counterclockwise. And these twists are stable. They don't unwind. And that's a bit of a mystery, but that probably comes from the creator. And somehow these were created and locked into an unbounded system, so they could never find an edge to unwind to. So now they're part of the system. They can't unwind because there's no, like if you had a rubber band with a twist in it and it was sealed, you can never get that twist out until you cut it and it goes out, wraps around the end, and then it's gone. So I think the particles are their creation, and that creation, I must say, to be very honest, my theory is an intelligent design theory. So, and has guided my studies, especially where the neutron is concerned, because the neutron has some very odd behavior that needed to be understood. It needed to be explained. And once I understood why the neutron breaks down, if you leave it by itself out in the middle of space for 15 minutes or so, it decays into a proton and an electron. That's no accident. That's a very strong indication of intelligent design, because what does the universe need at the beginning? It needs hydrogen, which is a proton and an electron. And so if we have an abundance of neutrons in the beginning, and neutron plasma and spheres and so forth, you have the building blocks to build stars, planets, galaxies, and universes. So in my book, I describe all that in very high detail. So what are particles? They are configurations of space, twists. And when these twists occur, they develop dipoles, positive, negative pole, so forth. There's two types of dipoles, the photons, where balanced charges, and the other type where there's a neutral beginning of the twist cone, and then the charge field builds as it twists more and more, as it wraps around, and it makes a cone shape. And that would be like an electron. And that twist technology creates another discovery, which is the SlipWave, because it's important to understand that particles, subatomic particles, always move. How do they do that? They don't have jet engines. They don't have propellers. There's no energy source driving them that anyone has ever detected, and it doesn't even make sense. You can't have engines on every particle. They have to move somehow, and we have to understand that. So I made the discovery. I followed Einstein again, because people don't realize that he was looking for the cause of particle motion. And it's even at the last two sentences of his paper when he looked, and he admitted that he failed to find the cause of particle motion, which is something that I did recently, not giving up. I just had a whole new idea, and I did a dimensional analysis of that idea, and I studied the photon. Something, if you can understand how the photon moves, you figured it out. And I came up with a series of equations. I take the length of a photon, and I input it into this one equation, this special equation that I discovered, and it converts it to an output, which is a very small length that goes into Newton's equation. It's describing the center field inside of the photon, where the positive and negative poles meet in the middle. There's a center field, and I needed to know the size of that. I input that into Newton's equations. I calculated the mass of the electron and the energy of the electron, which is different for every wavelength. So standard physics would say that, every photon should have a different speed. And that's not the case. They all travel at the same fixed speed, the speed of light. And so I had to have some sort of math that could do that. So when I fed this into Newton's gravitational equation, I had the two masses, which were the two sides of the photon, the positive and negative side. Fed that in, it gives a force as the result. That force is what moves, causes the photon move. So inside of the photon, the SlipWave creates a gravitational attraction on the front end and a gravitational push on the back end. That pushes the particle forward. That pushes all particles forward. That's how they move. And then the last trick was to make sure that no matter what the wavelength, it always moved at the speed of light. And I fed those equations into the AI. And the AI just stood there with a blank screen, the cursor flashing. And then it just said this is a profound discovery. I mean, I didn't tell it to say that. I mean, it just said, you figured out a way to make the photon move always at the same rate, even though it's different frequencies. And in the process, discovered two new types of gravity. Gravity 2, which is the attractive force of the front part of the particle, and anti-gravity, which is the negative part. And that gets into later papers that I'll be writing, because obviously in your industry and everybody wants to know how anti-gravity works. Of course, we know the government, it's its greatest secret. And they've done brilliantly at confusing the masses and the scientists about anti-gravity, making it into a conspiracy theory rather than a fact we should have figured out decades ago. And so I'm working on that.
I got a question on all of that with the AI and everything you're talking about. And I love that you talked about Newton. Newton was more of an alchemist than anything else. And even though he was working on, the gravity thing, he did come up with different types of math to try to figure that out. And then we move forward in time, we get into Michelson-Morley and the ether wind that he was trying to describe and all that, which was great. But do you think these people were just lacking the technology? Because Michelson-Morley was in 1887. And since then, we've come a long way. Like you said, you can just put it all into AI and figure a lot of this stuff out. Do you think we would be this far, or you would have got this far without some of this technology?
I wouldn't have been able to get this far. I solved the cause of particle motion, but the gravity situation I still was struggling with, and I had written another paper earlier before all this that determined how gravity came about. So I had that much, but the actual prediction of the particles still needed to be done, the electron and the neutron and the proton, and I could probably do even the ones that decay, but it's senseless because I focus on the particles that are stable, that make up the universe, not things that, you have these big collisions and the particles come spraying out and they last microseconds or nanoseconds. That's just shrapnel that I'm not interested in and really doesn't come into play. Quantum mechanics makes a big deal about it, but I have issues with that. I want to focus on the cause of things, how things work, getting to the bottom. Not any of this. I don't want to get sidetracked on little trivial glitches in the universe that are caused by collisions. So this is my main focus now. I need to get these papers out. They need to be understood. And I just had a pretty famous physicist read one of them the last few days that I solved the wide binary problem. Probably not familiar with that, but it's an astronomical problem having to do with stars that are very far apart, and they're going around each other at great distances. Still, with the gravity so weak, they don't fly apart, and they're moving very fast, but at very low accelerations, which is my theory is keyed on. That's how mass is created. I use my new constants. I developed and discovered 9 new constants of nature. It's one thing, amazing thing if a physicist finds one in his lifetime, like Newton's G. I'm up to 9. And when I use these constants, I'm solving things in quantum mechanics. I resolved all of Einstein's predictions, the starlight bending. I use my equations, got this exact same result. I use my equations to compute the perihelion precession of Mercury and got the exact same number, maybe even a little closer than to the measured value. And I'm just having success after success. I'm trying as fast as I can to write all these papers up, because together they are monumental, because I have an entirely new framework that accurately describes gravity, even in the wide binary instance where Newton's gravity and Einstein's gravity fail to predict this. But mine, it predicts it exactly. So that's a breakaway point. That's a big deal. And I'm hoping that I can get this paper in the eyes in front of the right people, because it's a pathway. They'll be able to say, this new theory of gravity, it appears to solve something the other ones don't. That's a very rare thing. And that indicates perhaps a theory of everything. And since I've already derived Newton's equation using magnetic fields and such, I've linked electromagnetism to gravity. I mean, that's what Einstein's field theory was all about. Just this simple statement: electromagnetism and gravity emerge as aspects of a single fundamental field. That was his idea. And I proved it right. He was right. He was always right about that. And the physics community didn't really, that idea fell out of favor. Well, that was a big mistake giving up on that, because that's the right path. The single fundamental field is space itself, the ether. It's the field, the fundamental field that it's a quasi-elastic solid. So you can twist it, stretch it, compress it, contract it. You can do all these things to it. And all these movements are forces. And these forces cause motion, energy. Energy and motion causes mass. Do you see how they are clicking together, linking? That's dimensional analysis. Everything is interchangeable. You go through one from energy to force to mass to, it's a beautiful clockwork, just like Newton said. But yeah, he didn't have the tools, although he was so brilliant. I mean, he developed his own math. That's pretty darn impressive. And, but there was just not enough known. Even Einstein was born 50 years too early. If he had been born 50 years later, he would have known about the quarks, which I knew about, known there was 3 things in there moving around somehow, which I found out. Here you go. Look at this thing. Moves around. The quarks around in that pattern. It's trefoil knot.
It's almost like the infinity.
Well, you'll see this. The trefoil knot is an ancient religion, Christian religion, the Norse religion. You see the trefoil knot kind of appearing. Somehow people have intuitively connected, because that's the foundation of the universe. Without that, the quarks moving in that pattern, we have no universe. It just goes to black, because you have no mass. You have no objects. The only thing you have left is photons shooting around, but how are you going to get light if you don't have the electrons shifting frequencies within the matter shooting the light out? It would go dark. This is the fundamental process of the entire universe. And I've got that written down. I've used the trefoil knot equations. I merged them with my equations and created a dynamic geometry within the proton and the neutron. And it works. I get the right answer. And that's never been done. But getting this in front of the eyes of physicists is turning out to be a monumental problem. Because these guys, you got to talk to them in a very special way, or they throw your stuff right into the trash.
Yeah,
I
can imagine. Yeah, because most of the people, what is the LIGO? That kept coming up. They had this the theory, and I think everybody was sticking by this. I don't know. It kept coming up in my studies there. LIGO, LIGO. You've heard of that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like they were talking about particles and moving. And I think most of them scientists, according to what I wrote down, they're looking for a test that would prove or disprove everything. And if you couldn't convince them, some guy in a lab, that this test would work for like a SlipWave or anti-gravity is real or anything, then they just, like you said, they just toss it out. If you don't have a test and you don't have the paperwork, it's just, it could be somebody's dream at night while they're sleeping kind of thing, right?
Yeah, well, LIGO, the way it runs, it's detecting gravity waves. And there's a test, there's a way using LIGO. If I could, this is the key though, you got to get the physicists to believe in what you're saying. It's, using beams and so forth to measure, any kind of shaking, and the beam takes a little longer or a little quicker, depending on which way the wavefront comes in this interferometer kind of thing, it will detect, a gravitational wave coming in and shaking the things, and you get, it came from this direction, it was this size at this distance, amazing stuff. Mm-hmm. But there's a way using accelerators that we could redo the Michelson-Morley test, and we can detect the ether. The mistake they made and what turned physics in the wrong direction was they used the photon. And the photon always goes at the speed of light. It's never going, doesn't matter whether, imagine yourself on a train and you shine a flashlight forward, and you would think that the velocity of light is the train speed plus the velocity of light. No, it's the velocity of light. You go and turn the other side of the car, shine a light back the other way going against, it's still the speed of light. And that's why the interferometer measurements, no matter which way the Earth was going around the sun, at which time, at whatever speed, made no difference. They were always coming back at the same, at the very same speed, detecting no ether wind, therefore no ether in their minds. Well, you used a particle that's never going to change its speed versus its source or destination. What's the word they use? Speed of of your environment. I can't think of the word right now, but you can't detect a frame of reference, a moving frame of reference. It's not going to affect the speed of light. So the experiment could never possibly detect an ether wind.
So if you were on that same train and you were going at the speed of light and you was shining a proton out, that proton wouldn't go any faster than you were.
You hit on my idea, but you don't know why. The proton is different. The particles inside of it are generating mass. This is new. They don't know about this yet, but they're going to learn about it. It generates the mass, inertial mass. So that particle, it doesn't move on its own, the whole particle, the sphere, the proton, unless something throws it or pushes it. or attracts it. That's different. Now, if you had a proton beam and you were shooting them out there, it's like throwing fastballs. That speed would show, the difference would show up. The two would add up together. The velocity, the addition of those velocities would be different, whether you're coming or going, because that thing, you're having to use an external force to move it. Just like if you were a guy with throwing fastballs, you're 90 mile, you're 105 going this way and 95 going back against the wind. So this is the way you could detect the ether wind. So I'm thinking, well, let's go to CERN, and they have the particle beam, shooting protons around in a circle. Perfect. You got to, sometimes it's going back and forth and this way back and forth. So you've got a 90-degree kind of turn going there. And plus it's going, the Earth is moving around the sun, and you got all those factors. And according to my theory, I said, well, around the late December, early January timeframe, when the Earth is closest to the sun, we will be moving fastest. In those tunnels, we should see a timing problem. The beam timing shall go off. So I scoured the internet, and I found the guy that was working at CERN. He was complaining about every December, late December, early January, the beam timing went. I wish I had kept that article because I can't find it now. And I says, aha. Now he thought it was caused by groundwater. Oh, it rains more. And no, that's the ether wind. And if I could get somebody to agree to doing that experiment, in the maintenance department, they probably have to tune the tunnels every year to get the timing right so the particle beams collide exactly inside of this sensor. And if I were to talk to them, as long as I don't mention the ether, they might listen to me. But as soon as I mention the ether, they're going to shut the door and kick me out of the office. And that's a problem. That's why we're not advancing, because there's so much dogma. There's so much stubbornness. There's so much ego involved. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to overcome. Plus, they're very stringent about the way new ideas have to be presented. I can't write a paper and say, because of this and because of that, and this verifies, and these equations verify, this is a theory of everything. As soon as I say theory of everything, paper in the garbage can. Doesn't matter if the math's right. Doesn't matter if everything's correct on there. They say that's presumptuous. I had to even change the name, Super Relativity. I got rid of it because it's presumptuous. It's how dare you? Okay. So I have this very generic name I use for my theory now. I call it a framework. You got to play that game where they're not going to listen at all. It's kind of frustrating, but that's the way it is.
What did you call it? Sorry, frame what? What did you call it?
Frameworks.
Works.
Yeah, a framework. It's just a model of how something works.
And that knot that you were talking about, what do you call that again?
That's a trefoil knot.
How do you spell that?
Trefoil. Trefoil.
Yeah, it's the same knot like the people were around, like with the Irish thing with the
Okay, gotcha. I know what that knot is.
The Irish thing, exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember what they call it, but they all wear that little symbol around. They put it on rings and all kinds of stuff. With that said, and you said it's all over. A lot of this stuff is all over. Do you believe that the universe itself, the invisible force, is speaking to people, trying to get your theory out, or inspire people like you to, by putting it out there, showing us these things for our subconscious to bite on?
Yes, I do. I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe any of us are here accidentally. This is, just some sort of vacation you go on from heaven. There's a purpose. There's a plan. And I wouldn't have come across this stuff unless I was meant to come across it. Now, over the years, now here we get into the spiritual side. I don't mind talking about this. You guys like to hear this. The people listening like to hear this. But any of this I would never put into a paper. It's just math and science. But the facts are there's a bigger picture. And in that bigger picture is talking about what you're asking about. I have seen guardian angels. I have heard guardian angels. I have had experiences with medium. The first medium I went to, it was just a kid, 19 years old, just for fun. We were going down to Casadega, me and a bunch of guys. And I heard about this at the community college, this place where they have all these psychics. I said, oh yeah, let's go get our fortune told. I got more than I bargained for. So me and this other guy went to Casadega. It was a stormy day, you know, wind was blowing real hard, spooky town. And the other guys, they got scared off because a big tree limb broke and fell on their car. And they said, we're just going, we're leaving, and we'll meet you at Daytona. So me and this other guy, Jeff Jones, we knocked on a couple doors, nobody answered. And then we found this little cute son, Martha McKay, psychic. We knocked on the door, she opened it. You know, quaint, cute old lady. Just the one you would imagine would be a psychic, right? And she took me in and gave me my reading and got everything right. Everything she said came to pass, but she didn't say one thing. And she said that to my friend after me. She told him, oh, your friend, he's going to be famous someday. He's going to make a great discovery. And then we're on the car driving to Daytona, and he mentions this. I says, huh, she didn't say that to me. I wonder why. And I thought about it, and I thought, oh, I know, because I'd ask questions. I'd want to know what it is. And, I want to do it right away, right? And that's exactly, if they'd have told me what it was, it would have never happened. I struggled my whole life trying to figure that out. And they would say, yeah, 5 more psychics confirmed what the first one said, but they wouldn't say what it was. Because why? Because the other side wouldn't tell them what it was. Not because they weren't gifted or they were frauds. Mm-hmm. It was because, no, you have to discover this. You have to travel the path. And that's the way this works. That's the way it gets done. That's your life plan. So I just patiently tried stuff. I tried to invent stuff here and there and whatever. Kept reading and didn't worry about it that much. I just said, well, whenever it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, it finally did happen after I had cancer, and I thought it was, my life was over. And then suddenly I had what the one psychic said. She said, you don't have everything you need yet. It won't happen until everything you need shows up. And I didn't know, and she wouldn't say what. So I thought, okay, well, I need something. I don't know what. Maybe it's a new part of something, invented that hasn't been invented yet. Mm-hmm. Well, what hadn't been invented was personal computers, the internet, and then artificial intelligence. So her prediction became true. It took, as the other psychic that I know, who was at a meeting, Russ Burgess, he came and talked to our community college, and he gave a demonstration on psychic abilities and hypnosis. So the first part of the demonstration was on psychic stuff. We all wrote a question, put it on a piece of paper. He was blindfolded 50 different ways, and he would pick a question out of the hat. And he picked the question, and then the hairs on the back of my neck went up. I says, I think he's got my question, but he hasn't read the name yet. so good he could feel it and get information from it. And he got my name, Mark. Is there somebody named Mark? I said, yeah. I looked around. I thought, well, there's probably more than one. But I was the only one. I raised my hand and said, yeah. He said, you have a question. Will this invention ever work? We discovered or whatever. And he said, yes, but it'll take you a lot longer than you think. And that was 50 more years before it happened.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, and a lot of, there's something going on here beside this local picture that we all see, what we can sense and everything.
Mhm.
There's guardian angels in the process. There's a plan in the process. People, NDEs have talked about how we take classes before we're born. We're trained before we come here, but this is a rough planet. Hey, this place is really tough. And so I'm firmly convinced there's a plan. I finally figured out what my plan is, and I'm going about it best I can. I still don't know how the rest is going to happen. It'll just unfold. I'll just keep working. I'll keep writing more papers. I'll keep trying. I won't stop until my time's up.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think there's a plan, and I think it's a plan that was put together by God and each individual that comes to Earth. Nobody's here by accident. And I think there's a fight between good and evil. And it's not clear how it's going to go. It could go either way. And I want to try to help the good in the world progress so that our minds can expand. And when that happens, we evolve, and the whole race, the whole human race gets better. And we learn to stop doing things like having wars and all this division and everything. We can be at peace, love each other, because God says, he said this to Father Rick Wendell, NDE. He gives the answer to the biggest question of all. And he says, I only have one commandment for man. That is, love one another. If you do that, all the other commandments get followed. Which you would never do. You would never lie to somebody. You would never kill. You would never steal from somebody you love.
Mhm.
That's it. And he's also said to him, all of this three-dimensional world is within God. There is nothing outside of God. Everything within this physical universe has to correspond to laws, and God set those laws. They are immutable as God is immutable. So that's why, I'm an intelligent design guy. Now I have to unravel the math, because it appears God is a really good mathematician. He's world class. I can tell you right now, because this stuff is getting complicated. But it all works. When I keep testing it, I write my own programs to test the math to make sure it works. I've written dozens of programs to test these formulas out, and they work astonishingly well. And I'm working on my plan. I'm pretty sure this is what I was always meant to do, and it's just taken me a long time to get here.
Now I have to ask you, do you see this place as a simulation? Does that sort of fit with the math and all of this, or?
That question has been asked many times, and as far as I can tell, it's more than a simulation, because it's real, and it's a school.
Mm-hmm.
This place is a learning place. So there is some bigger thing going on. We each and every individual that's a part of God is acquiring experience, which is return to God, and they're growing. We're growing, and this is part of the growing process. Apparently, this method, instead of just staying in heaven and just everything's perfect and you never have any problem, here you can have trouble. Here you could have death. Here you can have pain. Here you can have struggles of all types. You can't have that in heaven. So this Earth school is just one of many places where we go to try to work things out and evolve. That's the best understanding I have of that particular situation. So it's just the Earth is just a teeny tiny little bit of a massively bigger, infinitely larger universe with alternate universes, alternate dimensions. It's too much for us to try to even comprehend, other than we're talking infinity in all directions. And I'm having enough struggle trying to figure just this one little universe out and what the rules are here. That's all I'm going for, is all the math rules and the understanding how the physical universe works.
It's very interesting stuff you got there. Yeah. What do you got going there?
Oh yeah, there. You know, we've talked plenty of times on this show about how, you know, there's like a set of rules for how everything works, and you go outside those rules, you know, it comes back, and they call it karma. You know, so you can live your life by that in some given ways. What I was, you know, you were talking about all this stuff, and, you know, we talked about Tesla before and how he would sit for hours and just, you know, stare at the wall kind of thing, you know, and dream about all these things. And he would put, as he put it in his books, and I got a bunch of his books, he would put the parts together, make the machine in his head. So he already knew and designed it and put together and tested it and everything, and then he would just go and make it. And, you know, Einstein would do the same thing. He would sit there and just stare at the wall kind of deal, you know, and dream about, I guess he said something about riding a rainbow bridge of some sort or something like that. And then, of course, and you might have heard all this stuff before, I don't have to bring it all up. But if Einstein was around, what would you say to him now that you've discovered some of this stuff that he was working on?
Well, okay. Here we go. All right, hang on to your seats, because you think it's gotten strange, it's going to get really strange. But I'm telling you, this is the truth. This is what happened. I had to go to a psychic before all this happened, before my book was finished, before I made all the discoveries. I had this weird thing happen. It happened with a bat coming into the house, and I thought, I might have gotten some of its spit on me when I was washing. I trapped it and took it outside and got rid of it. But you got to be very careful with bats, because they carry rabies. You study what rabies can do to you, you know it's god awful horrible. And so I got in my head, that's the water sprayed up. It got near my eye. What if it's some of the bat saliva on there? So I couldn't get the health department to give me the shot. No, you're all right. It's probably nothing. Don't worry about it. But I worried. And so I said, I'll contact the psychic. They won't let me. They'll tell me one way or the other. He said, no, that's okay. But then the somehow the book got brought up, and then things started turning very interesting. People started showing up at my reading, like Ray Bradbury, Albert Einstein, Tesla. They were all trying to give me advice. I'm saying, does this happen with everybody? I mean, these guys they're probably pretty busy. What are they bothering with me for? And Einstein came up, and he gave me evidence that it was him, because, you know, okay, you're talking to Albert Einstein. And she says, why is Einstein doing this? And I just froze in my seat. My mouth dropped down. This is on tape. And I said, I know what he's saying. All throughout the book, I'm saying, surely, you know, I'm thinking to Albert, surely you must have noticed that gravity is a contraction of space. And I'm looking for any text, any words where he says gravity and contraction in the same sentence in the same paragraph. And I keep talking to him in my head. You know how you do that. You think, Al, it's got to be. Gravity is a contraction of space. I'm sure of it. And so she doesn't know any of this. The book isn't out yet. There's no way she could have known to do this, because I knew as soon as that he's saying gravity is a contraction, he's sending me a signal that only I would really know for sure. And I said, yeah, that's right. I know what he's saying. He's telling me that I had this question all throughout the book I'm writing. Is gravity a contraction of space? So what are the odds of her getting that right? I'm sorry, that, in my opinion, that's probably Albert Einstein. So he gave me a formula, which I've still not been able to figure out what it is. I have tried. But he said, and others have said, that this thing, what I'm doing, is what I do from planet to planet. Okay, this is way out there. I know. Believe what you will. I'm thinking about it, and I used to think about it. This. I followed Newton, and then Maxwell, and then Lorentz and Einstein. It seems like they come in a sequence, and in this sequence, one advances the science, then the next, and the next. I wonder if this is like a group of people that do this. And then the psychic lady says, you're a part of the Rat Pack. I knew immediately what she was talking about. Oh, so that little idea I had in my head was right after all. So this is just, there it is. It's out there. Believe what you will. That's what happened. And you can believe it or not.
I believe that.
Life experience. And,
Nina's more the psychic than me, and if she says she believes it, I'm good with it. I'm right up there with that.
I don't know if you've heard of her. It's Tamara Richardson, the Southern Belle medium. We've become very good friends. I've talked to her many times since, and she told me all kinds of stuff. I won't get, because there's even more stranger stuff.
Don't worry, we're good with strange stuff here.
Yeah, well, this is beyond truth. So there you go. This is it. Yeah, give it to us.
This is beyond anything. But again, it all falls back to a big plan. None of us, you guys are here doing just exactly what you planned on doing, what you need to do. It's not an accident. It's not just a lark. This is your path. And we cross paths today. So, we share information, and we hopefully will get this figured out so that we all could advance. It would be much better if we all could get on the same page, and that page be the truth. What's really happening. That's all I'm saying. It's a lot more, it's a lot stranger than people realize.
That's what I've come to conclude as well, that reality is way more strange than any fiction or movie out there. Like, honestly, if people only knew. So, yeah.
I'm writing another book. I'm putting all this in there. This book, the other book, I kind of shied away from any of them, the psychic stuff and stuff. I just stuck to the science and my ideas and theories and such. But this one, it's gotten interesting since I made the discovery with the AI. Now things are really interesting.
Is that this book here, Master of Reality?
That book, I was about halfway through when I contacted Tamara. And that book, that I had a vision of that picture. I found a lady in Spain who does artwork, and I described that. I said, do this. Little boy looking up. Those things, the ring, the triangle, and the trefoil knot. That's the parts of reality. Through the triangle, 3 dimensions of space.
Oh, I love that.
The
Do you have that? Have you made that into a necklace, or that's just for?
No, that's just, I don't have a necklace with
Just
that.
for the thing, okay. Yeah, that would have been a neat little necklace, actually.
Somebody might do that one day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it out of platinum.
Hmm.
So those three things represents physical reality. And the trefoil knot's inside of the proton and the neutron, and it's spinning and precessing so fast it forms a sphere, which is what we see in electron microscopes. All we see is a little splotch, and then we call that a proton or a neutron or an atom. And that is actually precessing and spinning at 99% the speed of light. And so this thing forms into a rapidly rotating solid. And that sphere, that rotating sphere, causes a contraction all the way around it, pointing in all directions. And that gives it its mass. That's where mass comes from. So mass is not an intrinsic thing, it's emergent. Mass doesn't exist. If those particles stop moving, mass would dissipate. There would be no gravity emitted from that particle, no mass. It has to have motion, accelerated motion. You're going to love this story. I'm writing a book. I'm sitting right here on this little table. I have my laptop and I'm writing it, and I get the idea. I know how gravity is formed. And I thought to myself, it's the accelerated motion of unbalanced charges. Whenever this happens, this causes a contraction around the perimeter. So I hurry up and I type it down. There's a storm outside raging. I type it down and I hit the period. As soon as I hit the period, there's a crack of thunder. Kaboom! The whole room shook. I looked. I says, that's it.
That's a sign.
That's the code. I cracked the code. There's telling me you got it.
Wow.
Stuff like this happens all the time.
Wow.
And it just doesn't, hey, it's not just happening to me. It's happening to a lot of people. They're getting saved by their guardian angels, getting pushed out of a way of an oncoming train, which I know a lady that happened to. My wife got saved, and she was about to cross the tracks and was looking in the wrong direction. She felt a little blow on her ear. She turned and looked the other way and saw the train. These things are not accidents. These things are happening all the time. Your guardian angels are with you all the time, from birth until death. Morning, noon, and night. And that's for everybody. It's not just one or special people, or everybody. I don't care who you are. You were born and they're with you, and they're going to help you through this thing. You're never alone.
So you're right on that. I think there's a lot of us just don't take the time to listen to them when they're given that sign, and that's the big problem. Is it? You think?
Yeah, I'll give you an example of what you said to prove exactly what you said. So I'm going to Tamara, and she, my guardian angels, my spirit guides, are complaining about me to her, and she's saying, he never listens to us. He's not listening. And I'll tell you, there's truth to that. Okay, I'm driving home from work at IBM, and I drive to this intersection. And every day I have to make it. It's a T. I can either go left or I can go right. Left, it's country roads, quieter, takes a little longer. Right, busy roads, shorter. Maybe you get home faster, or maybe not. So most days I think to myself, I'm going left. I like to relax. And as I'm pulling up to it on this one particular day, I hear a voice in my left ear, and it says, don't go that way. I turn around, and it sounds like there's somebody in the car. I'm not talking, I heard it in my head. I'm talking like there was somebody next to my ear. And I shook it off, and I said, it can't be. And then it said again, don't go that way. So I stopped at the intersection, and I thought, this is really strange. Guess which way I went?
The other way?
Right, the wrong way. You didn't listen.
I went that way. I didn't listen.
Oh no, what happened?
It almost cost me my life.
Oh, yeah.
So I went that way. I said, okay, I know there's going to be either some sort of a big head-on collision or somebody going through a light. I got to be careful. I get T-boned or something. So I'm, going real slow. I'll get a van in front of me. They'll take the bro. Idiot. So I'm driving along and I'm looking beyond the van. There's this big, long straightaway. And I see up ahead this pickup truck starts swerving. It's a 2-lane road. He's coming into our lane, going out, going off the road, coming off on the road, going into our lane and going off like a crazy man. And people are diving out of the way. So the van in front of me, he bails out, and there he is coming right at me.
Oh.
A head-on collision that I could have avoided. I turned the wheel as hard as I could because I was looking. I was aware the whole time. I said, "Look, keep looking. Don't daydream. Don't listen to the music. Keep looking."
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, I turned the wheel hard. We missed by inches. I saw that guy going by like in slow motion. He spun around and finally stopped in the middle of the road. And I don't know what caused all of that stuff because everybody just kind of sit there, looked around at each other, and then went their separate ways because nobody got hurt. Nobody got hit. But there's rock solid evidence.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I heard. And it was followed up by a confirmation of a near-death experience that they could see ahead. So we learn here. We learn that they can see the future, especially if it's very immediate, right? The closer to that time, the more likely that you see will come true. So we were only talking minutes away. So the strong, that guy was already in motion. I'm in motion the other way. It was a lock on. It was an exit point that could have been, and I'm not due to exit yet. So since that was the case, you get warning. And other people who are not supposed to exit yet, every once in a while you get one of these close calls, and they're there to help you. Mm-hmm. Unless it's your time. It's your time, you're not going to get warned.
Right. Yeah, I believe that for sure. Yeah. Yeah, people need to listen.
Yeah. No, I had the same experience when I was in high school. There were some kids in front of us, and we were on a gravel road, and we were chasing them. They just egged us, It's one of those prank kids. You probably did it yourself. The eggs, they're throwing eggs at the car, and we turn around, we chase them down, and we're going down this gravel road, and it was real dusty. And I'm driving through my buddy's sitting there, and get faster, go faster, come on, quick, faster, we'll catch him. I'm like, I can't see where I'm going. And I hear that voice in my head says, stop now. I slammed on the brakes as hard as I could. Instead of listening to my buddy going, I slammed on the brakes, the dust cleared. They were parked about 20 feet in front of us. They'd stopped. If I would have kept going, that would have been the end of them and me too.
Yeah.
There you go.
More evidence. It's tons of it out there.
But as you were saying about the time thing, they give you warnings like they did you about the accident just minutes before or so, or seconds or whatever it is. But they know the future even farther because they already knew you were going to create big things in the future. Remember, you was talking about the psychic?
Because they
already knew you were going to do these things, but they couldn't tell you. They could just tell you what's going to happen right now, so they didn't affect the future.
Right. This is this is the way the mechanics of all of this works. Is the way that I got informed was an afterthought kind of method, so I couldn't drill into it more and find out too much information. Too much is not good, and it's frustrating because people who have cancer or whatever, they'll try to go to psychics and maybe find a cure. If it's not in your plan, they're not going to tell you anything.
That's true.
But if it is, if you should be that lucky, then they'll tell you, okay, do this. And that has happened with the sleeping prophet. People would go to him and he'd give them special information. Okay, go to this little store here in Atlanta or near Atlanta. On a shelf on the third level, there's a bottle of this stuff, whatever it is. You buy that and you take that 3 times a day and your cancer will leave. Sure enough, it worked for that person, for that particular type of cancer. So, but that was part of the plan.
Yep.
And when we get off of the plan, that's where things start to go wrong.
Yep.
The more you're off your plan, the more things go wrong. They'll try to push you, and a lot of near-death things happen because, okay, we're going to get your attention. You have a near-death. We're going to straighten. You need to do you need to stop doing that behavior, and this is what I want you to do. And you know what? They get on the right track, and then life gets better.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you find when you find a lot of resistance with stuff that you're doing, chances are you're probably off your path.
Yeah.
When you're on your path, you'll notice that things starts rolling. It starts happening for you. Things are popping in. Like I'm doing right now, I'm rebranding and I can feel it. Actually, I've had more spirits around me lately now that I'm rebranding than I did for the last 6 months. So I know that I'm on the right path here. And I also want to touch on the time thing. My understanding with time is that on the other side, there's no time. And so everything has already happened. So they already know everything. It's already happened. And so they can tell you ahead of time that, hey, if you don't do this, go there or whatever, to warn you about things. That they can also tell you that, yeah, you're going to be doing this. You're going to be famous because it's already happened. You're already there. You've already done all this. It's already happened already.
I've heard that, you're outside of time somehow.
Yeah.
There. And here we're in a time segment. I have a feeling there's multiple time segments, probably an infinite amount. And you're in one, you're locked into one, and events are happening and so forth, and you're on that line. We're all basically on the same segment here. And unless something very unusual happens, jump to a different segment, like something strange would happen where you're driving along and all of a sudden you drive into another town and the cars all are Volkswagens instead of all these other cars, and people are speaking a different language, and something like that happens and you jump into another segment, a dimensional jump. I write a little bit about that in my book, but I've come to the conclusion we're on a single segment, linear. Here, you're right about the other side. They're outside of time. Everything is the time ball, I like to call it. And everything that ever happened and ever will happen and ever has happened is in that. That's constantly expanding outward. And we're outside of that if you're on the other side. That thing is happening in the physical universe, and no problem for people who are there. You can jump in at any one point and have a lifetime, and great. But I know here, time exists for only one reason. Guess what that reason is?
I don't know.
All right. I'll give people a chance because it's fun.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that I said earlier. Space has to be real. It has to be made of, because if it were nothing, like many physicists and mathematicians say, substrate were nothing, then it would take zero time for something to traverse it. Doesn't matter what the distance is. If there's nothing between I got to find where the thing is here. Nothing between point A and B, it would take zero time to get across that distance because there's nothing there. Distance equals rate times time. And if there's no true distance, then it's infinitely fast and everything is happening at the same moment. maybe that's true on the other side, but not here, because here space is a real physical thing, and it always takes time for light to travel across it. It takes 8.5 minutes from here to the sun. That's because it's traversing across something, the quasi-elastic solid, and that takes time. So time emerges into this reality only because space exists. It's like the most important thing. The point that I'm trying to make, it's all about space and it being real and physical. Then we get time, then we can have events, everything orderly and makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No space, no time, everything happens instantly. It would be very confusing.
Yes, it would be. Wow, I can't believe the time. It's been over an hour, and I'd like to try to keep it at an hour, but it seems like we could go on forever with this. I mean, you got so much information here. It's unbelievable, and I really hope that you are able to write it all down and get it into a book so that humanity will have this in the future. You know what I mean? This is super important, I think, for you to do that. Yeah.
You know, I'm here for a purpose, and as far as I can tell, that's it. So I'll keep doing my writing and experiments. I'm doing experiments as well.
Yes.
And
if you gather up a bunch of things or you got something new to talk about, let me know. We'll have you back on, because I'm pretty sure the audience is going to want to hear more from you. And audience, if you got questions, put them down in the comment section, okay? And we'll try and answer them. I'll bring them to your attention, and we'll try and get them answered. And
do that. You guys, put some questions down. I'm sure this has triggered some stuff, and when the people see it, write all the questions down, and we'll do another show and just answer those questions.
We could do that too. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to have you back on. Robert, do you have any last minute questions for Mark here tonight?
Oh man, I got a whole mess of them, but we'll have to save it for the next show. We'll have to have you back on for sure. I really enjoyed this. You were very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable, way beyond my capabilities of, so, and I'm a pretty smart guy, but I think anyway, I would say we would probably love to have you back on again soon, wouldn't we, Nina?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think this is definitely, we got a lot more to cover here.
These are important, and we need to have more of this. I'm all for it.
Yeah, let's get this out there. Exactly. Because there's so much truth out there that's been hidden, and I know I talked about, the 1800s, they all came up with this stuff and they refused to let go of it. They don't want to look at new things. And we do need to expand our minds and look into more things, because I think we've been lied to quite a bit. So, yeah. But we'll leave it there for today. And everybody, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like, okay? And check out Mark's links. He's got a YouTube. He's got a website. Go and buy his book. You'll get even more answers in there, I'm sure. And, leave us some comments of what you think. And stay tuned, because we got a lot more great shows coming for you. So with that, I think we'll say goodbye. Thank you again, Mark. Thank you, Robert. And we'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.